Hey everybody, I'm Jake Jarvie and I did all of the visual effects on Rob Scallon's Trooper video. So in the spirit of VideoBlock's hashtag creator to creator initiative, we thought we would show you how we did a bunch of those visual effects using a bunch of VideoBlock's assets. You can click on the link in the description box below and get a 7-day trial of VideoBlocks, save 40% on over 3 million video clips, including After Effects, 4K footage, and motion backgrounds. And if you create something special with it, you can just share it with the hashtag creator to creator. Now, unfortunately, we had to work with Rick Riffson on this video, and that guy is the worst. Luckily, we only had to work with him on the first minute of this video. It's not me, okay? I'm not Rick. I'm also not his brother Mick. I know we all look alike. It's just, I don't know why, but let's just talk about visual effects, okay? So first you open After Effects. After Effects is a program that's about layers. So here we have just the layer of them doing the bass cannon. We can see what it's like without any effects. It's amazing that his helmet fell off. Now we scan through and find the spot where he's pulling the string to fire the bass. There it is. Now, we're gonna go into VideoBlocks and look for alpha explosions. You can kind of preview them as you look through here. I like the look of this one, the burst. When you import them into After Effects, it's going to ask you, File. These are all the VideoBlocks assets that I imported for the video. So I'm just gonna select a couple of the alpha channel effects here that we just downloaded. What do you want to do with the alpha channel? And I just leave it straight unmatted, both of them. That way, when you pull it into the composition, it removes the black background, and now you just have an explosion in your scene. But now it's too big, so we are going to go into the settings of this layer, open that up, open transform, and pull down the scale. Get a little more scaled down to size. And move it over to where we want it, but now we want it to start at the right point when he's pulling the string. So where's that? Right there, okay. So you just pull the front of that layer over to where you want it to start. And then you pull the front of the clip back right to the start line, so that's the first burst of that clip, is that little burst of muzzle flash. But now it's facing the wrong way, so we gotta change the layers. There are these little boxes. You can toggle the modes right there. Blend modes, these are various layers. That little box turns on the 3D mode. So now we can operate it in 3D space. We flip it around, kind of on an angle with the bass neck, so it's not straight to flat. We want to angle it a little bit with the bass neck so that the explosion moves from the bass in a more organic manner. And now we just got to line it up with the front of the bass. But you can see that the burst is happening way too slowly. So you right click on that layer, go to time stretch. We don't actually want to stretch it, we want to compress it. So we go from 100% to 10, and you can see that turns it into a 1-second clip. It's going to bust out much faster. There we go. Now we need to blend it. This is the pen tool. This is the most handy tool for compositing. You're going to make a mask with it. So you just trace out what you want to see of that clip instead of seeing like the boxy edges around it. Whatever's off screen doesn't matter. So now you've got this really hard line. You're going to go into the mask settings, grab the feathering and turn it way up. So that really makes that line really soft. And you can still see the edge there, so you go into the mask expansion settings and pull it back until you can't see where that ends anymore. Then you can realign, get the flames all set. But now it looks too orange, so we're going to toggle back to the blend settings. These are the blend settings of various bunch of blends. And if you go to add, it gets a really hot look. Boom. Now you want that explosion, the muzzle flash, to follow the neck of the bass. So we're going to close the mask, go into transform and click position. Now you've set a keyframe of the position of that clip, that layer. So you're going to move a few frames and then just move it to where you want it. Now it follows the neck of the bass. You see, one keyframe to the other, the clip will follow the path that you've set. So you just go to the end of that clip, move it a little further, and now the smoke follows the neck of the bass, and it looks like the bass is producing that blast of smoke. Now let's pull in this big explosion for the initial blast of the bass cannon. Right on top, find out where we want the clip to start. That's where the big burst is. Now we pull back the start of the clip to that point, pull it back and position it right where we want it to appear. Move it over. We don't want to flip it around, so we'll go into the settings of this layer, this clip, toggle, click on the 3D settings, and flip it around again in the orientation. That's got a really nice kind of like sunburst deal going. Move it where we want it, and now we are going to make another mask. Go to the pen tool, gonna pull this edge out of here, zoom out a little bit, get a nice big area, close it off, go into the mask settings once again, gonna pull the feather out, make it really soft, and we'll take a look at how it plays. Pretty nice, but it is exploding too slowly. Right click, go to the time stretch, by half, we'll call it 50. Let's see how it plays back. That is a much better quick burst. If you're working with Rob Scallon, you absolutely need to have this layer. Get the transform effect here, scale it up as big as you can without getting too pixelated. He insists that this is a really important part of the algorithm. And you bring it to the bottom layer, boom, and then you have the duck layer. Nobody can see it, it's not going to be part of the final render. I've worked with Rob long enough now that I decided to do a whole pre-composition of ducks layer. Anyone in visual effects knows that if you can do one duck, you might as well do 1,000 ducks, right? It's going to be the way to success, right? People just want more and more and more. So then you select both of them, and you're going to want to do Shift Command on a Mac, DUCK, and that will make the layers disappear. That's how you get that algorithm. It's an important part of the Scallon process. Let's add some smoke. This is just a slow motion smoke clip from VideoBlocks. Let's pull that in to the composition. Now with smoke, you're going to want to go into a blend mode and do screen, not add. Add adds like brightness, a nice little, and screen just kind of layers it on top. Makes it look really smoky. Boom. Right after the explosion, the smoke will start. But we want the smoke to come from the explosion. So we grab our pen tool and mask out the area of the explosion. Grab that layer and move it underneath the explosion. There we go. Once again, go into the mask settings and grab that feathering. Really feather it out so that the edges are soft, because it's smoke. And now we are going to click on the keyframing for the mask path, so we can animate the path of the smoke. Let's turn off the explosion so we can see what we're doing with the smoke. And now we go to the very end of the timeline, and we just start grabbing the mask and pulling it outward, so that the smoke spreads across the frame following the cannon blast. The animation just happens because you have the two keyframes set, one right around the cannon blast and the other where it's all spread out, and it looks like the smoke just spreads out following the cannon blast. Now the issue is that we have a very bright explosion, but it's not showing on their faces. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to turn these off. We're going to go to that initial layer, the footage layer, duplicate it, pull it back to right where the explosion is, because that's right where our cursor is. We're going to shorten it to 2 frames. We are going to grab the pen tool and trace out around them where the light of the blast would shine on them based on their positioning, roughly. So that's a mask. Go to the blend mode, click add. Like I said, we get a burst of light off of that, just because that's what the add blend does. Feather it out. Pull back the mask expansion so it's not going too far off of their bodies. Now I've got a light burst right on them from the blast. You can see what a difference it makes turning it on and off. Except it's a little extreme on Taylor's face. Taylor's face is like completely blown out, so we'll go into the transform opacity, pull the opacity down to like 50. That looks a lot better. There we go. So when we play it back, a little burst of light on them as well. And now it's time for the final touch. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to grab all of the layers, go to Layer, Pre-Compose. I usually call that layer All Layers. Click OK. Now you have all of those layers combined into one layer. If you click on that layer, it opens up all the other layers again. But now you can manipulate everything all within one layer. So we are going to go right to the area of the blast on that one layer, open up the transform. We are going to open scale, scale it up to 105. Let's zoom out a little bit so we can kind of see the boundaries of the frame go wider than the composition. Now we're going to go to position, set a keyframe. We're going to go 1 frame ahead, and then we are going to drag the position slightly differently, making sure that the boundaries stay within the composition. 1 keyframe, move it, 1 keyframe, move it, couple keyframes, move it so that it starts to smooth out, 3 keyframes, let it settle. So now you see, right with the explosion, the frame shakes like crazy. But there's more. We go back over to our toggles. Right next to the 3D mask is a motion blur toggle for that layer. Turn on the master motion blur, and you can see that based on the keyframe positioning, After Effects presumes what the blur between those two positions would be and adds a natural looking motion blur to it, as the camera would photograph sudden movement. It's super cool. And so this is what the final shot looks like. Look at what the kick of that bass cannon did to Taylor. My gosh. So there you go. I hope you guys had a good time. I hope you enjoyed watching these video effects getting made. And I have to go back to putting ducks behind things because I work with Rob Scallon.